It was a wild week 6 in the NFL, especially on the NFC side of things. How did all of that impact our perspective of the conference? We're delivering our updated NFC Power Rankings today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sure you have no idea how to figure out which one is which, but you should check us out on YouTube. We are here for you every single day. We're here to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And of course, we are so thankful for you making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day. And of course, a welcome, a shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much.
Joe, happy National Jalen Ramsey returns to practice day to you.
I
know that's an AFC talking.
Oh,
point.
no, I'm so excited.
I'm fired up. I'm fired up.
Me too. I was really hopeful that the Dolphins would get some reinforcements for their defense, and really turn that side of the ball around and, make a big run here. So, fins up, baby.
You think he plays against Kansas City? It's a 3-week activation window.
I'm sure that was the intent. That was what I thought of when I saw the news. I'm like, they want him for Kansas City.
And then they get the bye. So I think that's kind of the weird limbo. Maybe they see how he responds, but if he's not ready for New England or if he's not ready for Kansas City, then you effectively get a bonus week.
Yep.
You just have to make the roster transaction out in front of it.
Yep. So we'll see.
So,
I had them number one in my AFC Power Rankings. Kyle Krabs, host of Locked On Dolphins, couldn't say the same. Not as number one team.
And you know what? I am going to go through the majority of the season not giving Miami the benefit of the doubt.
You know me. I'm doing the exact opposite. I'm leaning into it, baby. Fins up.
Gasoline on the fire. We saw what happened last time. The gasoline got on the fire, and then something with the Western New York team happened.
You know what I mean?
And it was a very humbling experience. So
this is me with a big kerosene tank just shooting it.
Good.
That's the whole plan.
Very good. Well, I maybe we can put some bad juju on the Dolphins' Week 7 opponent, the Philadelphia Eagles here, and let's heap a bunch of praise in their direction with our NFC Power Rankings for Week 7. We're going to start with the top 5 teams.
Yes, and this is going to be interesting this week because high-ranking teams lost.
Yeah.
Dallas with a bounce-back win. I've got a real different team at number 5.
That doesn't surprise me. It might surprise me who it is.
We'll find out. Okay, so
nice tease. We both had San Francisco, Philadelphia, Detroit, Seattle as our top 4 last week.
Yeah, mine's different than that.
Mine's a little different, but not at number 1.
Same. I'm rolling with the Niners.
Right. Like Debo gets hurt, McCaffrey gets hurt, Trent Williams gets hurt. Like, okay. You understand that's going to impact the offensive side of the ball going against one of the best defenses in football. I don't care what their schedule says in regards to the Cleveland Browns. The 49ers, when they are firing on all cylinders, are probably the most complete outfit right now in the NFL. Now, whether they're going to sustain that all the way through the season or not is a different story, but they continue to be my number 1 team in spite of losing to the Browns.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think what's important here is the entire body of work. They were rolling everybody, and then circumstances came into play against an unfamiliar opponent on the road, and that got in the way. That got you a loss. Look, we'll see how they respond from here, but it's not enough for me to take them out of number 1, especially considering those same types of variables for the teams that are knocking on the door, if you will.
Yeah. Now, I have another 1-loss team at number 2.
Same.
But not the 1-loss team that was at number 2 last week, which was Philadelphia.
Same. We have the Lions.
The Detroit Lions are the number 2 team in the NFC right now, based off of total body of work. You talked about rolling people, right?
Yeah.
Detroit, since what, week 3? Has been rolling people.
Multiple score wins each of the last 4.
I forget what the stat was, but like Detroit having a multiple touchdown margin of victory over X number of games was like the first time it had happened for them since like 1969.
They've won every single game by at least 14 points, and the Panthers, they won by 20.
Yeah. They are playing really good, complete football. Jared Goff executing that offense at a high level.
Sure is.
They are having success on both sides of the line of scrimmage, in the trenches with that offensive line.
Run defense.
So I think that is the biggest emergence of the year for Detroit thus far, the interior defensive line.
1,000,000%, Kyle. They haven't given up 100 yards rushing yet. They've given up less than 50 in 3 of their games. It's huge. Because that was the thing. You can come in there and just bully the Lions, run the ball on them. That opens up the passing game. Lions ain't doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And, I mean, nice work by this front office to find those reinforcements on defense, even if, some of them, like, what was it, the corner?
Mosley,
he's out.
Went down. Yeah.
They've had injuries, but the rest of this has been really good, man. It's impressive and kind of just steamrolling the success they had end of last year into this year. It looks great, man. Just keep it up. I feel like everybody that's not a fan of a team in the NFC North is pretty much enjoying the Lions having this success. And meanwhile, I'm sure Lions fans are like, on pins and needles every week. You know what I mean? Like, is this real? Like, when is this going to blow up? You know how it is, right?
Yep.
You're just fine. They're Lions fans.
So the dude's never wrong just early. Our Lions. It was like a 2-year campaign for our Lions. And this is the year where it's manifested, and it's very, very cool to see what they have become from where they started this process as. Number 3, I have Philadelphia.
Same.
Maybe not the strength of victory or margin of victory that you would expect for a team that played in the Super Bowl and brought back the vast majority of the nucleus of the team. We've talked at length about the coaching departures that they had, and they're really banged up in the back 7 right now on defense. And I think that is one of the storylines for their game this week against Miami, is how they handle that between it's Blankenship banged up. I just saw Bradley Roby, who they just signed, is like week to week now. So they Slay missed. Slay missed last week.
He was ruled out. Yep.
So they have a number of high caliber pieces. I believe there's another safety that's down for them too. Justin Evans, and they've been hoping to get Sidney Brown back. Yeah, so he's been MIA too.
Well, not to get ahead of us, but I think the Eagles are going to want to run the ball, right? That's going to be their big plan, is try to dictate terms with that and shorten the game and all that type of stuff. But I think based on the entire NFC, obviously bad loss to the Jets. They've been squeaking by. We talked about this with Philadelphia. Still not enough for me to drop them further than 3. You know what I mean? Like, loss to the Jets is not what you're looking for, but there's enough questions about what's underneath them for them to kind of stay in this spot. And
and
obviously we'll see what they look like against Miami.
It kind of works out well how it's the 3 1-loss teams kind of get tucked in up there up top, and then you can start having conversation around the rest of this conference, which is kind of crowded. I think the bottom 6 is a little bit more clear separation than it is on the AFC side of things. So let's round out our top 5s. I have Dallas at 4.
Dallas at 4. Nice bounce back win over the Chargers. I thought Dak, for the most part, was like playing a lot better in this game. Like, I'm concerned about the weapons, right? I mean, I don't know what they have outside of CeeDee Lamb. Michael Gallup looks like the shell of what he was before the injury. Huge miscalculation choosing him over Cooper. Cooks, just can't get him going. I mean, Gallup was targeted 10 times in that game. He caught 3 passes. And how many of them was just he couldn't elevate, couldn't get that late separation, couldn't win?
I think at one point in the game, every Dak Prescott incompletion was a Michael Gallup target, too.
It was incredible. Yeah. But a big win for them on the road over the Chargers.
Yeah, and defensively, you still trust a lot of what they have going on with Dan Quinn and the momentum of several years in that system now, even without Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland looking good for them. Yeah. So that's I think they're still very strong on that side of the ball. 5, I have Seattle.
I don't. Let's debate that here in just a moment.
Okay, very good.
Stick with us. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. So whether you're prepping for a daily draft, or you're scouting the waiver wire, each week we're going to provide you with players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's take a gander and see who Vinny has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. Drake London is starting to show why the Falcons drafted him first among the many talented wide receivers in the 2022 draft, and why he was a hot sleeper in 2023 fantasy drafts. London has found his groove in the offense with Desmond Ridder. In the past 2 weeks, he's caught 15 of his 21 targets for 203 yards, and he draws another good opponent here in Week 7 against the Buccaneers, who have struggled to contain teams' number one wide receivers. London is guaranteed to keep bringing the pleasing production with great matchups ahead against the Titans, Vikings, and Cardinals before a Week 11 bye. Vinny Iyer from Locked On Fantasy Football is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. So keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Okay. So I have Seattle. You have a mystery team that I would guess is also in the NFC West.
Also happened to beat Seattle 30-13. So that was a big part of it. Has been competitive all year. Some tight losses to the 49ers, the Bengals, and the Eagles. Yeah, it's the Rams for me.
The Rams.
Yeah.
I have the Rams at 6.
I have the Seahawks at 6.
Okay, so that's fun. Head-to-head is obviously a nice feather in its cap. I'm just I want to see... I want to get a better feel for all of the young players that they have before them.
Of course.
Before I put them in that. I just feel like Seattle has some more known commodities.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, Seattle, here's what I'll say about Seattle. Big
really
win over Detroit.
Lost.
I am mad about that because that was annoying to watch Gino just pooping his pants in the red zone. But good win over the Lions. Their other 2 wins are against the Panthers and Giants. Lost to the Bengals, lost to the Rams. I feel like the Rams have been a more consistent team this year. They've just proven more to me.
That's fair.
And I didn't expect this. I mean, we talked yesterday about teams where they started and where they were going. I mean, I didn't think much of the Rams at all going into this season.
We both had the Rams 13th.
I got about 5 weeks going into Week 7. I would have never imagined that.
But to be fair, by Week 2, we both had them 8 and 9 respectively.
Well, they beat Seattle 30-13 in Week 1. We're like, okay. And then they competed against, was it the 49ers early
49ers
on?
In Week 2.
Yeah, it's like, all right, we got a team here. So
they have pretty steadily been working their way up. And I think in the NFC, where even though there is kind of this gaggle of teams that are all 3-2 or 3-3 right now, it's very congested in the middle. I think the separation as far as who has what you need long-term this season and who doesn't is still a little bit more obvious. And then you obviously have a bottom of the barrel in the conference that you don't have in the AFC side of things. I think there's a clear divide with from the bottom 5 teams when you consider there's 4 teams with 1 or no wins.
Yeah.
And then another team that is kind of clearly in that stratosphere as well, that's missing their best player. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I didn't penalize Seattle too much for the loss in Week 1 just because it was so far away. But if you wanted to make the head-to-head argument, the Rams having the head-to-head win by 3 scores is about as good of an argument as you could possibly have. So I can't argue with you there.
7, I have Tampa Bay.
I have New Orleans at 7 and Tampa at 8.
So again, the head-to-head pushes me over the top with Tampa.
Yep.
Beating New Orleans 26-9.
I don't know. Long term, who do I trust more? What do we know about Tampa?
Kyle, I'm concerned about both teams. I mean,
Right.
Tampa can play defense. That's what they can do. They can stop the run. That's Tampa's thing. But yeah, I mean, they're not a good offense. This is a bottom tier offense in the league. They can't run the football. Baker has not showed up. They've played two good opponents this year, Philly and Detroit. Baker didn't show up in either game.
But they were the creamsicles.
They look good. You know, they look good. But I mean, squeaking by Minnesota, Chicago early, like I just don't know where the quality is right now for Tampa Bay. Am I talking myself into the New Orleans Saints being hired?
It sounds like it.
But I mean, I'm not in love with New Orleans either. Their better defense is probably better. But congratulations, you beat the Titans, Panthers, and Patriots?
Who's got a better offensive line?
The Saints.
Who's got better skill players?
The Saints.
Who's got a better quarterback? And I understand Derek Carr was not good.
Brother, I guess the Saints.
And
Who's got the head-to-head win?
And we just said the defense. We just said the defense was more complete.
Is it not? Do you have something else besides Bucks, Saints, and 7-8?
No, it's Saints, and then Bucks. For me, it's 7-8. And you have it flip-flop.
Okay.
So again, if you're going to put it into the college football playoff, which you've been very consistent with the past couple of weeks of doing this, Team X has a win over TY. They should be in front. Like, yeah, then you have the right process and the right order. I'm still clinging to what I'm projecting moving forward in addition to what they've done.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the moving forward. I don't know. I kind of think about these teams similarly. And number 9 is Atlanta, right? Like it's this.
What do I have? I have Atlanta at 9 as well.
This NFC South just cluster. I don't know, man. Like none of them to me seem like they're great teams. Atlanta and Tampa play this week, so that should be interesting. Atlanta certainly has some momentum. It feels like, I guess.
I think
Houston.
They just shown life in a couple different ways that they really didn't early in the season, that you feel like, okay, like can they build on this? Can we get some momentum after having 400 yards of offense in 2 consecutive games?
Yeah.
Can we not do the thing where we turn the ball over multiple times? Like there's a team in the league that does not have the recipe to do that with any level of consistency. It's Atlanta. How are you? You're -5 and you're -8 in point differential the last 3 weeks.
They haven't gotten a takeaway in the last 3 weeks either.
Right.
They've gotten one takeaway since week
week one, when they played the Panthers and Jesse Bates just said, "Hey, Bryce, welcome to the league, bro."
Yeah, give me the ball. It's a cluster, man. Those 3 teams in the NFC South. I mean, the head-to-head is going to be huge. Atlanta plays Tampa this week, like I just mentioned.
At Tampa.
At Tampa, yeah.
Atlanta low-key has a chance to go on a little bit of a run here because they go at Tampa, at Tennessee, Minnesota, at Arizona. Their next 4.
I mean,
go 3-1 in that stretch, right?
Yeah.
And then from Tampa's perspective, Atlanta, at Buffalo.
Short week too, Thursday Night Football.
Yep. At Houston.
Tough game.
Tennessee. And then at San Francisco for the 5th week in that stretch for Tampa.
I feel better about Atlanta. I mean, I think in a few weeks, Atlanta's probably might be 7.
From New Orleans' perspective, Jacksonville this week. That's Thursday Night Football tomorrow night.
Where's the game?
Jacksonville.
That's tough.
It's close. Close travel.
It's still tough.
It's tough. At Indianapolis, Chicago, at Minnesota, bye. Tampa regression looking.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to climb
looking
here.
Like it might be looming.
Yeah, Atlanta's going to climb.
I have the Packers at 10, and I hate it, but somebody has to go in this spot.
I have the Commanders. I mean, they're 3-3.
Yeah. Tell me more about that,
brother. Come on. They're not a good football team, but they're 3-3, and
why are they 3-3?
Because they scored more points than the other team 3 times. They beat the Falcons, who were just applauding literally the last game they played.
Right, because they won the turnover differential 3-0.
That's helpful. I mean, they took
Washington,
Philly to
Washington had
overtime.
193 yards of offense versus 402 for Atlanta, but they got 3 turnovers, so they won the game by 1 score, and then they beat Arizona and Denver by 5 combined.
Which you have Green Bay in this spot. I mean, what's the big selling point there? Jordan Love looks bad.
They have a defense. They have some talent on defense.
Commanders got talent on defense. I don't know. Listen, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Stick with us. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. You ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? Like, you know what you should do. You know what's good for you, but you just can't do it. That's okay. That's normal. And therapy is here to help you figure out what could be holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. If you've been thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. We're all busy people. We're all trying to figure out how to incorporate things into our time, and really investing in yourself and your mental state is probably the best usage of your time. And BetterHelp is equipped to make it work for your schedule. All you do is you fill out a brief questionnaire. That'll get you matched with a licensed therapist. And then if for any reason you need to switch therapists, you can do so at any time for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn.
Do you have the Packers at 11?
Yep.
Okay. So you and I are doing this cute little thing where
right.
The last 7 teams, we've had the same 7 teams with just a pair of teams flip-flopped, the next pair of teams flip-flopped. We both managed to tuck Atlanta in at 9, and then we took the next 2 teams, and we had the same 2 teams just flip-flopped again.
Yep. That's what's going on. Okay, so do you want to talk about Green Bay a little bit? I
don't love where they're at all. They have not been healthy. Now, in some aspects, they're not going to get healthy. Like, Bakhtiari's done. He's not coming back. Our entire recipe as a team was supposed to be, well, let's run the football and build off of that. A.J. Dillon looks toast.
This rushing offense stinks, man.
Yes.
28th in yards per game, 20th in yards per attempt. Or 20. It's worse. It's 27th in yards, 25th in yards per attempt. They're averaging 3.5 yards a carry.
Yeah. Now, Aaron Jones has not been healthy, so you acknowledge that. A.J. Dillon is bad. I get why they were calling on Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
Super lethargic player. 64 attempts. He's not in
Peyton Barber land?
No, he's not going to get the volume. He's not going to get the volume. But here's everything you need to know about the Packers offense. A.J. Dillon is the only player on the offense with more than 21 touches this season through 5 games.
That's insane. Been injured, right? Watson's been out.
Right. So you have like this smorgasbord of like first and second year skill players that are thrust into these big roles. It's not going to get better. Well, offensively, they haven't cracked 350 yards of offense once this season. 350. They haven't done it once.
It's a good thing they drafted Lucas Van Ness in the first round. That's really helping their offense.
Now they're gonna the next 2 weeks. I think they're gonna get back on the horse. I think they're gonna be 4-3 because, pun intended, they play the Broncos this week, and then they get the Vikings without Justin Jefferson.
You'd like to think they should, but again, they've not proven to us that this is a benefit of the doubt team.
Right, which is why they're 10th.
They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Falcons. Right?
Hey, the 3-3 Raiders.
I know. Put some respect on them. Juggernaut.
So and that Detroit game was a lot worse than 34-20 too. Detroit boat raced that team.
Yet we have teams lower than the Packers. In fact, we have 5 teams lower. Who's next? Minnesota?
It's the right 5. Yeah, it's Minnesota. It's the 2-win team that scratched out a win this last week.
Yeah.
Mildly competitive. Your hot take for Minnesota is not looking like that bad of a take. Do you remember what it was?
It was something along the lines of them having a positive point differential. Something about point differential.
I think it was like less than 10 wins, but a positive point differential or something like that.
Yeah.
They are -6 in point differential.
Just don't get killed. Don't get killed.
Well, bad news for you. You got San Francisco on Monday night this week.
Oh, that's not going to be helpful. That's not going to be helpful.
So, boy. Yeah. The schedule after that looks digestible with the exception of 2 games against Detroit in the final 3 games of the season.
All right. So get through that.
So
maybe win a couple.
This. Can you steal a couple in this stretch where you played Chicago and Denver and the Packers and the Saints at home, the Falcons? Can you steal a couple games in there and then beat the lowbrow teams that we think are at the bottom of the conference and find yourself floating around 500 by your week 13 bye week? We'll see. But you're probably going to be 2-5 after this week. So
tough place to be.
Godspeed. Arizona Cardinals are 13.
That's where I have them.
The New York Giants, I have 14.
That's where I have them.
The Chicago Bears are 15.
That's where I have them.
And then the Carolina Panthers are 16.
That's where I have them.
Okay.
I was interacting with Bub the other day, and Bub believes the Panthers are going to win this year. He thinks it'll happen.
That they will get a win.
Yeah, and he also said that Bryce Young is not the worst part of their offense.
I would agree with that. I don't think Bryce Young's particularly good right now.
What do you think is the worst part of their offense? The guards?
Yeah, because they're so banged up on the interior there, and then they just have no dynamic athleticism with their skill group at all.
Right,
like none. It becomes very challenging to. It puts so much extra pressure on Bryce Young to anticipate throws, to throw guys open and feel it before they're at the top of their breaks because there's no clear and obvious winners. We're not running winners. The only time we get winners is Adam Thielen running choice routes.
It's from the slot, right?
Right.
And Horn and Thompson out on defense is tough. And Chicago, what's going to happen here with Justin Fields? Dislocated thumb.
Probably going to miss a little time.
Tyson Bagent, I mean, good luck, man. It's tough there. The Giants, who knows what to make of their performance against the Bills, right? Like uncharacteristic, especially on defense, right? Where they showed a lot of life on defense, which has kind of been the thought with the Giants. Like, all right, your offensive line is completely in shambles. We have low expectations for your offense, but the defense wasn't supposed to be this bad.
Right.
But Bobby Okereke played really well. They got Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams up front, Dory Jackson, Xavier McKinney
middle to work with.
Yeah, they should be better. So if they can play somewhat close to the way they played defense against the Bills, that's going to give them a better chance. Offensive line doesn't seem to be it's going to take the turn, but look, Tyrod I think is probably better behind that bad offensive line, but Daniel Jones is their guy. Interesting dynamics there. We'll see if that was a turning point for them, but I don't know.
They from here, Washington, New York Jets, at Raiders, at Cowboys, at Washington, New England Patriots bye week.
They probably feel like they can get some wins there. Like they're probably looking at that and saying, "Can we get to 500 going into the bye?"
No, they're 1-5.
I know, but can they get 4? Can they? They'd have to go.
Do you think they'll? You have to go 5-1 over the next 6 games. You can lose one game with Washington twice, Dallas, New York Jets, Raiders, and Patriots.
Can you just lose to Dallas? I mean, it's unlikely. I'm saying it's unlikely. If you're a Giants fan, like, or you're Brian Daboll, that's got to be your thought, right?
Who's blocking Max Crosby?
Nobody, Kyle. But the good thing about the Raiders is there's nobody else you have to account for on the D-line.
You say that, and then Max Crosby shows up every single week and wrecks the entire game plan.
Except for one time.
In week 2.
Yeah.
Raiders defensive yardage allowed this season, 260, 333, 305, 285, 259.
Not that bad, right?
And then 450 against the Bills.
Robert Spillane, man. Gutsy player.
Spillane, that's the guy. Can the Raiders just chill with the turnovers? They have 12 turnovers this season.
They've given up the ball 12 times?
They have given up the ball 12 times on offense.
That makes it harder.
Yep. Now, we get Tyson Bagent this week to win the point differential or win the turnover differential, and maybe the Raiders sitting at 4-3 going into Detroit on Monday Night Football.
Takes on takes.
Takes on
We're
takes.
supposed to do this way earlier in the show, so please.
Right. So takes on takes. We're doing it Friday, but we have to record a little earlier than normally we do. So we need you to provide your takes now on today's show in the comments on YouTube so that we can react to them when we record takes on Thursday tomorrow. So that is our plan. We will be back tomorrow to preview week 7 of the NFL season. Joe, we can do some trade deadline stuff the following week.
We should.
Because it's sneaking up on it. Like we're less than 2 weeks from the
It's October 31st.
Yep. So you'll get
4 p.m.
You'll get all of week 8 in, and then it's done. So we're probably looking at like buyers and sellers, trade candidates, logistics. There's a lot to get into. So we have that upcoming as well. We hope you will come back and see us. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. I'm Kyle Krabs. He is Joe Marino. We are Locked On NFL Scouting with Draft Dudes. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your Wednesday. We'll talk to you all again tomorrow.